May peace be upon you. My name is Brother Omar Dexter from the UK, and joining me all the way from Australia is Brother Musa Cerantonio. I guess, I say, through life, as I said before, as it meanders from one thing to another, it's natural to lose touch with people and to end up with different friends with different beliefs and different values, but I don't see anything wrong with keeping up good friendships with people that you've trusted over time. And in fact, we should, as we go back to the start of our conversation, we spoke about what did the prophets tell us to do, peace be upon them all. And part of that was worshipping God, the other part was loving your neighbour. And if you love your neighbour, you have to tell to them the truth. You have to tell to them whatever is good. And if you see them doing something bad, you should try to encourage them to say, okay, diminish or stop doing it, or even spend your time doing the good things.
So how about yourself? How was it with your friends? Do you still keep a lot of contact with them?
Not as much as I would like to. But going back to our earlier part in the conversation, saying that the message that the prophets, peace be upon them all came with, was saying that we have to worship God and we have to love our neighbour. And part of loving your neighbour is really about telling them to do the good things, or encouraging them to do the good things, and asking them to refrain or forbid from doing the bad things, as anybody would want to do for their true friends. Now, I guess some people respond in a good way, and others see it as a way of saying, well, I have to change. No, it's you that's changed. And it's quite unfortunate when you only have the best of intentions sometimes, but whatever Allah replaces, it's always a bit faster than what you are coming to Him. One of the difficulties I did face was reactions from some family members. I found it quite difficult to accept that I got the right to choose my religion. They accept it now, but I don't feel that they're happy with it. But they're entitled to their opinion. Do you want to tell me about your family experiences?
Generally, with my family, at first, there was a bit of apprehension. They thought, you're a Muslim. What does that mean? What does it imply? How are things going to work out now? But over time, my parents have seen there's improvements in me. Not that I was, very bad before, but now they've seen what Islam has brought. Originally, when I was first working with my father, on my holidays I'd work with him, he'd say to me, I don't want you praying. When I was working in Ramadan, he said, no, I don't want you fasting at work. But now when I work with him, he actually says to me, it's time to pray, go pray. When it comes to Fridays, he said, he lets me take half the day off. When it comes to fasting, he's happy for me to fast at work because he knows it's only going to make me more sincere and hardworking for him. So in that sense, with my father, it's been good. My mother as well, at first, she sort of saw me as breaking tradition, raised as Catholic, how dare you change this? But as I'd talk to her, I'd tell her, what is that I believe now? And she'd basically agree with me. She's yet to embrace Islam, and I ask Allah to guide her to do so.
Inshallah.
But, she'd be happy. She'd say, okay, yeah, what you are saying seems like it's making sense. I'm happy for you. So in most regards, it's been good with my family.
But I suppose it doesn't always work that way. I hear stories where their families, and until their families come to the acceptance and put away a lot of their fears that they have about Muslims and Islam. And you find a lot of that is basically just propagated by misinformation or blatant lies, often by the media or some influential people in society, giving innuendos or negative comments which frankly are not true. Because at the end of the day, the word Muslim, and if people call themselves Muslim, means the one that submits to Islam, that the law by which Allah has given to us, the religion which Allah has given to us. So if people are doing that, I think we don't give them, inshallah, God willing, we don't give them the reason to have such criticism as what many non-Muslims see of the Muslims.
Yes, I know with my father, at the start he was saying, well, if you're a Muslim, we're going to have problems because you're going to be doing all of these things. And I'd say to him, no, these things which you mentioned, whether it be terrorism, whether it be just rumors that he'd heard. People have really heard some wild things. I don't know where they come from. I remember one Muslim, actually a non-Muslim, he said to me, why is it that within Islam, you're not allowed to drink from the same bottle as someone else? And I said to him, where did you hear this from? Here's something a bit strange. I grabbed the bottle, I drank from it, and I said, here, drink from the bottle, there's no bother to me. So when they do hear these misconceptions, these things which they've been wrongly informed about, we're there to sort of step in and say, no, this is what we actually do believe.
Well, I guess what it is, there's some truth in that. And that really it comes from the eating of non-halal meat. If someone just had a pork or something like that, we're not allowed, God says we're not allowed to drink from the same vessel as what they drink from.
Oh, of course.
So there is some truth in what your friend said, but really it's not a matter of us saying that he is dirty. It's really a matter of saying that God says we're not allowed to do this. And if we are obedient to him, we have to follow what God says. But unfortunately, that can cause offense sometimes with people who don't realize how much we are bending over backwards to accommodate some of their preferences. For example, I've been at times where I've been places and I've been criticized for praying. Oh, we don't want you praying here, that sort of thing. Yeah, you're thinking, well, I think if we was raised in a Muslim family, people would be saying, oh, mashallah, my son is praying, or things like this. So I think we face a level of difficulty, or certainly have gone through a phase of difficulty, that I think a lot of Muslims appreciate, but a lot of non-Muslims would find difficult to understand until they actually experience it for themselves.
Definitely so, yes. Have you ever felt much Muslim background?
Yes, I would say there's a lot of prejudice out there, some positive, some negative, but overall I think this is part of the Muslims improving themselves and following their religion properly, and then being a good example to the non-Muslims. Because it's no point to say one thing and do another. God does not like this. This is stated in the Bible the whole time, mentions the hypocrites time and time and time again. So this is a quality that God dislikes.
I know for myself, generally when I first became Muslim, people were happy, everyone was smiling, but then in time, you'd meet those people who are really Muslims by name, and they'd say, oh, why did you embrace Islam? As if it was something which was something bad. I was really surprised when I first heard this. And again, you mentioned about praying. Once I was in a Muslim restaurant, and I said to the owner, listen, it's time to pray. Can I just find a corner and come pray there? And he said to me, no, I don't want you doing that. I said, well, that's very strange. He called himself a Muslim, but then after that, he was telling me not to do something good like that, which is why this topic came up into my head. But fortunately, for the most part, the majority of Muslims have been very, very welcoming. They've really made things easy, come into Islam, and they're very soft and gentle. And that's what's really inspiring. It's one of the things which, made me look into Islam. I was lucky enough to meet many Muslims before I became a Muslim myself, who were some of the best people. They had the utmost character, and they'd only tell you that which was best. And you'd love to see these people, and you'd say, I want to be one of them.
Some of those qualities are what draw people in, because a certain magnetism always feel like they tell you the truth, and they always say, they're always honest to you. And these are the things which sets like your buddies apart. And I've got a real good set of buddies now who I will go to for good counsel, always get good advice, and I'm very happy with my group of friends. So in terms of like the reaction from the Muslims, I think there's been a mixed reaction. Some people who have like negative attitude perhaps towards everything, that's just them kind of people. But the vast majority have been very, like you say, very welcoming, and especially very happy that we've become Muslim. And I guess just because they want the best for humanity, and they know that this is it, this is the real thing.
Indeed. Have you found it hard at all being in the UK, which is essentially a non-Muslim society?
Well, in some ways, yes. In other ways, no, because it's like if you was to try and tell people not to drink alcohol in, say, maybe Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that, they would perhaps say, why? Maybe they don't see many drunk people there. If you see drunk people all over the place, you'll say, well, that's a pretty good advert not to drink. Because God tells us, don't come near to alcohol, and don't come near to adultery. These are the two things. Don't even come near to them. Not only don't do them, don't come near to them. So that's why we're not allowed to sit with people who are drinking alcohol. Alcohol-ridden environment, like a pub, we're not allowed to carry the alcohol. We're not allowed to cut on your arm. Maybe you can use it for, if there's any medical benefit, but our Prophet, peace be upon him, somebody tried to say to him that alcohol was a medicine. And he said, no, it's a disease. And I think if anybody has had any experience with alcoholic, who've known these people who are addicted to this substance, they would definitely agree that this is a disease. And people are more inclined towards so many of the sins when they are drunk. And I think anybody going into a city centre, maybe Australia is the same, as pretty much a lot of Europe, certainly the UK, and a Friday or Saturday night, it's become like a cultural thing that every city centre becomes like a no-go zone for people with their families at that sort of time of night, because it's just not safe.
We've definitely had problems recently. It's been a big topic of interest within politics, and they've been saying, you know, we really do have problems in Melbourne, where I'm from, with young people going out and getting drunk. And I've seen this firsthand. It's a problem which has always been around. It's only now that it's getting much worse that people are starting to say, we've got to do something about this.
Yep.
And we're saying, well, we've started to do things 1,400 years ago about this. It's just time for you to catch up now.
I think what it is, as human beings, we think we can handle things. We think we're okay with it. Like many of the Christians will say, oh, it's okay for me to get drunk. And I will say, no way. It's never been okay for the Christians to get drunk.
Definitely. I know from my experience as well, you know, if you were to call yourself someone who drink alcohol,